I wish commentary channels would just get to the goddamn point. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point of all this?
Easy. You're alienating your fan base. Your content just gets worse and worse as time goes on. And you consistently manipulate your young audience. Could I have gotten to the point any faster? Hi, and welcome back to me talking about whatever I want. Today I want to talk about pkrussl and how he's quickly becoming one of the worst YouTubers on the platform. But first, of course, I'd like to do my comment shout out. This one actually goes out to Natalie. And this person has actually asked me repeatedly to make a video about pkrussl along with a couple of other people. And I guess what I didn't realize is that he's becoming a bit of a hot topic. See, if you've been with me for a long time, you'll know that this isn't my first PK rodeo. The very first time I went on YouTube and criticized somebody else's content, it was actually pkrussl. But since then, it's pretty safe to say he's gotten worse. Actually, I was going to name this video pkrussl is quickly becoming the worst YouTuber, but honestly, with people like Onision and JStation on this platform, it's not fair to say he's the worst YouTuber. But like, he's really trying to make his way there. This is everything from subpar content to creepy stuff involving his largely underage fan base, so can't wait to talk about that. So my first interaction with pkrussl was when I criticized his YouTube show called Animation Meme Review. And for those of you who don't know, animation memes are basically an animation format where somebody animates their original character or a character from a series, kind of moving along to music. And they're called animation memes because everyone makes their own versions of them. Honestly, if you watch like 3, you'll immediately know what I'm talking about. These are usually made by kids, okay? I mean, I'm sure there's some adults out there who enjoy making animation memes, but for the most part, it's just like kids messing around on Flip a Clip and trying to be like their favorite animators. Well, his show Animation Meme Review is basically just, bro, looking back, I don't know what it was, okay? At the time, I tried to be like nice about it. So I made an 18-minute video where I just focused on the show itself and I kind of just ignored his general creepiness. So my main criticisms of him in my 18-minute video were that his entire series hinged on cringe culture, but he was trying to pass it off as being criticism. And so that was just resulting in a bunch of general demotivation surrounding the series, and it was kind of discouraging people from participating. And the people who was mostly encouraging to participate were mostly just people who wanted to be noticed by him. It was weird, okay? So one thing I didn't address in that video, even though I should have, is that he doesn't know what he's talking about because he's not an artist. He always tries to combat that with, well, you know, you can criticize food if you're not a chef. Yeah, but do you know the difference between fruits and vegetables? Because at the very least, you would have a general understanding of food before opening your mouth, right? But clearly, he just didn't think he needed that before dedicating an entire series to criticizing animation. So really should have told me what kind of person I was dealing with right off the bat. But I thought I was doing something right by making my critique video. Well, he released a 56-minute response to me. 56 minutes to my 18-minute video.
So that's a look at dangelowallace's animation meme review.
I really do not have time to get into the specifics of that video, but I will say he basically said this.
Overall, D'Angelo, you did a good job staying professional and staying not ridiculous. This is constructive criticism. It was good, well thought out criticism. You stayed professional the whole time, so that's good.
Which I thought was great, but then he turns around and says this.
Clearly, D'Angelo doesn't like me. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's the same arguments we hear all the time.
So it's like, which one is it? Honestly, after I realized that he took my legitimate and fair criticism and still tried to write it off as just, ooh, I don't like him, I decided not to respond to him further in the video. I just left like a meme comment at the bottom which he responded to, and that was the end of the story. We went our separate ways, and now we're here. And here is a very scary place because I do not know what happened to this guy. I saw that people were talking about him and I didn't understand the extent of it until I went to one of his videos and it had 100,000 dislikes. Bro, I criticized Shane Dawson without getting anywhere close to 100,000 dislikes. And so I did a bit of digging and I realized the way he got himself there is he kind of at some point shifted his content from trying to help people to just flat out angering people for no reason. You know, he's one of those YouTubers. So he's developed what I'm calling the pkrussl criticism cycle. Basically, he creates a poorly structured video with lots of misinformation or just general obtuseness and a whole lot of inflammatory opinions. And then he waits for the internet to inevitably get mad at him, and then he cries the victim. Just over and over and over. That is how he's able to consistently keep himself in the limelight. It's like the Onision method minus the creepy well, no, there's actually a lot of creepy stuff involved too, but we'll get to that in a second. So let me illustrate the criticism cycle for you. So he starts off with a terrible video with badly expressed opinions and a lot of misinformation. For example, this has been hotel review, aka the one with 100,000 dislikes. He was just spreading all kinds of misinformation about the characters in the show and what the context of the show was. It almost seemed like he didn't do research before putting his opinion out there. Or another example is yet another animation meme focused video he made where he said you don't need to credit the original animation memes, which wouldn't have been so much of an issue if he didn't try to be so obtuse and pretend like animation memes are the same thing as real memes. I don't think he necessarily got the things wrong about Has Been Hotel on purpose, but he definitely says this garbage takes about animation memes on purpose, right? That way people watching it will react to it. And typically that's where people stop when that's the kind of content they create. But again, this is a cycle, so he has a very specific method. He posted a bunch of responses to his animation meme video, and some of them are like really logically laid out and basically debunking his entire point, but then others are just rude and calling him names, and he'll just post them all together and then claim that, you know, he's under attack. Like, his only response to criticism he receives is nitpicking. He's never able to actually point to the larger issue with the people criticizing him because they're usually right. And so then the whole victim card he pulls is he'll make a response video to clarify his original video. So like with this Has Been Hotel one, he actually made multiple videos trying to defend himself, many of which he later deleted just because he was catching so much backlash over his terrible review. Or another way is he'll try to make the criticism really personal. Like when this guy named Junkie criticized his animation meme video, pkrussl tried to paint the whole situation as, well, we were friends and I can't believe he went on the internet and talked about me for clout. Wait till you learn how YouTube works. But he always has to be the victim, so of course, you know, how dare Junkie go on YouTube and try to make money by talking about a trending topic? And he just does this over and over, making objectively bad videos because his points are not being expressed, waiting for people to criticize him, but then cherry picking and mixing up the criticism with actual hate, and then claiming the victim by nitpicking, making things way too personal, and basically pushing this narrative that he is always under attack and people are always misunderstanding his videos. And because his audience is primarily too young to realize that he's doing this over and over, he just gets a whole comment section full of people saying, oh my gosh, why do people always misunderstand you? Everyone's always attacking you. Even your friends are attacking you. When of course, once you pass a certain age, you realize if something really specific just keeps happening to the same person over and over, that typically says a lot more about the person than the other people involved. So yeah, for the past year and a half, that's the direction he's gone in with his content, which was a decision, and he stuck with it. So props for that. But of course it gets worse, right? Someone in my comment section actually said I'm the CEO of It Gets Worse. The reason I find him so creepy is because of the way he interacts with his largely child audience. So for example, apparently people in his Discord were daring him to post a picture of, I don't even want to say it. Basically, he claimed he was going to be posting a picture of his rear end, which of course, him being a male involves other parts as well. And you know, he was just posting on Twitter that he was going to do it, and then he did it? Look, I'm sorry that you even have to see the censored version right now. I am legitimately sorry, but at the same time, I'm not that sorry because I saw the uncensored version. And you know, posting that on your Twitter when your audience is made up of critiquing kids' animation memes, that in and of itself is a little iffy. But of course, the adults who happen to be in his fan base went to bat for him. They were saying things like, oh, well, you know, Twitter isn't a kid's platform. Kids shouldn't be on Twitter. When y'all realize the lower age limit for Twitter is 13, right? You know, 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old children, they're allowed on Twitter. People are also trying to say things like, well, he's posted not safe for work content in the past, which that's making me feel worse about the situation, not better. And you know, the thing about it is, even if he would like to pretend like his content isn't marketed towards kids, which he does, by the way, I think he does say, oh, my content's for adults. Really? All the adults out here watching you talk about some animation memes and gotcha life cringe. But hey, let's say he's like really intending for that content to just be for adults. He retweeted art from a 15-year-old hours before posting that. So honestly, your point is just completely invalid. I mean, I read that the people in his Discord are called like youth leaders as a joke, but clearly you're aware of the people following you because clearly you're making content for them. On top of that, he didn't mark it as not safe for work. There was no indication on his Twitter profile that his account is not safe for work. It's literally as easy as going in your settings and checking a box that will prevent any kid from seeing your stuff. And if they do at that point, it's because they violated an age gate. But the way that people in the tweet replies were shifting the blame onto the kids for being on Twitter, basically, and seeing his stuff, that was very concerning to me. Last time I checked, we don't shift blame onto people who did not do anything wrong. So yeah, I think a lot of people didn't want to call him out for that just because of how tricky the situation was with like the kids, and he's technically allowed to, and Twitter's age. That's okay, I'll call him out. That was creepy as heck, my guy. You are creepy as heck, and you are bending the line between what's okay and what's not okay, mostly because, you know, people can't really respond to it without catching flack. But I, my friend, am a flack connoisseur, so. Also, okay, you want to say all that, but he posted this on his YouTube, which, his YouTube is definitely kids, more so than Twitter. Again, I'm so sorry that you had to see that. Even though it was censored in his original version, that is not enough. And what's extra gross to me is that you can look at the bottom and see that it got age restricted, thankfully. However, that age restriction was not done by him, but was rather done by YouTube. Because if he had age restricted it, it would say requested by uploader. But instead it just says our community guidelines, meaning YouTube wound up flagging that at some point. So this proclivity to posting extremely adult content in places where you know kids are congregating and not making any indication to let them know that it's coming or prevent them from seeing it definitely makes it your fault. He reminds me of Onision. Now, obviously, I want to say, even as much of a weirdo and as terrible as his content is, and as generally unlikable as he's trying really hard to be, pkrussl is nowhere near as bad as Onision, because Onision actually is a criminal and should be in jail and should have his account deleted. None of which I think is true about pkrussl. However, PK is definitely out here emulating some of Onision's less egregious behaviors. For example, this whole criticism cycle, that other word for that is the Onision playbook. Spewing trash on the internet, waiting for people to get mad, and then taking all their criticism and just using it to play the victim card. Like, my guy, did you FaceTime Onision and ask him how to get YouTube engagement? Because that is exactly what he would tell you. Also, the whole posting inappropriate content in places that nobody asked for. Very Onision. Like, have you been on Onision's Twitter recently? And I think just the biggest thing he has going for him right now that's giving me those Onision vibes is just building your whole career on being unlikable. You know, generally that's not something you have to do if you have like a shred of talent. But I guess you got to do what you got to do in these YouTube streets, right? So if you got to keep making sad videos that don't make any sense and, you know, exposing your child audience to your junk, I guess go for it. But, you know, in life, probably the biggest lesson you can learn is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So if you want to continue to bait the internet into discussing these horrible opinions with you, don't be surprised when some of them come swinging a little harder than you're capable of taking. It's like he lives in this fantasy world where he thinks everyone is out to get him 24/7.
Oh my god. Okay, so as usual, it seems like everyone misunderstood one of my videos.
You know, maybe at some point, it's not that everyone's misunderstanding you. It's just that you're making bad videos because you're terrible at expressing your points in a way that's easy to understand in the first place. And by maybe, I mean that's definitely true. Anyway, he's just some weirdo on the internet who I felt like talking about. And while some weirdos are definitely creepier than others, honestly, that's all we are at the end of the day. So really, who cares?